Show. Paul, joined by Robert Ziggy Ziegler for sort of like a morning after reaction here. I'd call it almost a hangover. Does that sound about right, Ziggy? Following the major news with Micah Parsons becoming a Green Bay Packer, as I now select the right microphone to use. Does that
Yeah, I mean,
sound
it sounds a lot better now.
okay? That's great. Um, So again, Paul and Ziggy join you here on a Friday morning. That's the good news of this. It is Friday, right? It's always happy when you're able to head into a weekend, especially when you have news like Micah Parsons becoming a Green Bay Packer. But the official deal, so it's in now. It's Micah Parsons in exchange for Kenny Clark
Three.
and two first-round picks that are going back to the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot to talk about here. Before we get into everything, Ziggy, you're doing a little bit better on Friday as opposed to last night.
Yesterday there was still a chance that it was a nightmare, right? Maybe I went to. Now I've woken up. It's real. Micah Parsons is a Green Bay Packer. This is just the world we're gonna have to live in.
I did have quite a few moments last night becoming a Green Bay where I was just sitting back and I was on Twitter or wherever I again texts and people were just coming in saying it was insane. It was just insanity. Um, yeah, honestly, I know this is supposed to be a little bit more of a serious reaction for us today, but I still kind of can't believe it. As far as are we good with the stream here? Is everything looking okay?
YouTube is telling me it's not receiving enough video.
Okay, I think we'll be okay. We got it. We got to watch it. In the chat, let us know if everything's looking
I
okay
think we're
to you
getting some
guys.
buffering. We'll see.
All right. Well, we'll have to make
YouTube
sure.
is garbage software. It is what it is.
All right. As long as everyone can hear us here. So let us know in the chat if you can see on the stream. Okay, I think we're back. Okay, so let's get back into it here. The deal that Micah Parsons signs with Green Bay is a 4-year, $188 million year that comes out to $47 million per season. It's really shattering the non-quarterback market. Underneath him is TJ Watt at $41 million per season. That's the closest we have. So resetting the market there. And this really wasn't to me. Now, this is where Ziggy and I get into a disagreement. This was never on the table to me for the entirety of this situation. And it was fun reacting to things. We were talking about Ricky Scoops, right? Putting out all these tweets who kind of took a victory lap on Twitter last night saying
As he
never
should.
doubt
As he should.
yeah, saying never doubt the dog. And yeah, thank you. We know it's our most viewed live ever yesterday was great.
Shocking.
Shocking, yes. But to me, this was never on the table because you just don't see 26-year-old superstars get moved. You really only see it, I guess, in Dallas now with Luka Doncic and Micah Parsons. It's just not something that happens, especially in the prime of your career when we're talking about, and this isn't just superstars, Ziggy. These are like generational guys who have left Dallas. And for the Packers to make the move for him, yesterday was probably the first time that I acknowledged this being a possibility when Adam Schefter tweeted out that Dallas was actually exploring it. And that was the first moment where I texted you and said, "Hey, get ready. We might have to move on this." But I still didn't think it was a reality. I want to ask you, did you actually think that this was something that's like, I know you said it was, but did you actually believe it?
My position this entire saga was any other team in the NFL, there's no chance this would happen. But when you combine Jerry Jones and his incredible ego, of Micah Parsons, he's used to dominating, David Mugoletta, an agent who always gets what his clients want. It was the perfect storm for it to be possible. Now, I still would have said it's likely that Dallas makes a deal with him, but I was aware that this could happen because Jerry Jones is just a different kind of owner. And we saw it, right? Jerry Jones comes out after this and says, this was the plan. We always planned to trade Michael Parsons. Michael kept missing games. His son, the GM, had to look over and say, Dad, his name's Micah. Like, Jerry Jones is just that guy. He felt personally betrayed because of the way that the negotiations were handled for some who knows what reason. There's no other team and no other owner in the NFL that could do this. But on the Cowboys, anything could happen.
Yeah, we'll get to the Cowboys in a little bit. Let's stay on the Packers for now. As we'll move over to Dallas towards the second half of the show here. Looking back though on the Packers history too, because that's something that we have with so many Packers fans listening to this channel. And Adrian, we appreciate the super chat from you. Not wearing a jersey today, but maybe soon. Packers fans were consistently saying this offseason, this is never going to happen. We put out a lot of videos about a lot of different players the Packers could target, whether it was T. Higgins or what was T. Higgins, whether it's Trey Hendrickson, sorry, um, or any superstar, Max Crosby, a lot of pass rushers. And Packers fans the entire time were in the comment section saying, this is not something that we do. This is not a Packer-esque move. But then you start listening to the way the Packers are speaking within that organization, right? Ed Policy at his intro presser. And Brian Gutekunst, Ziggy and I just looked up, we're trying to get some quotes before coming on live. Brian Gutekunst was talking about urgency a lot this offseason. In January, he said, for me, the thing that's been on my mind as we've concluded the season, we need to continue to ramp up our sense of urgency. These opportunities don't come very often. The life of a player in the National Football League's not very long. We've got a bunch of good guys in that locker room, got a bunch of talented guys in that locker room. I think it's time we start competing for championships, right? Well, this was a championship-esque move. This is something you do when you want to win the championship. You go out and get a guy like Micah Parsons. The problem with the Packers that we were talking about this entire offseason was they had a lot of really good guys, but a limited number of superstars. Head over to the Detroit Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs is a superstar. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a superstar. Aiden Hutchinson, superstar. Brian Branch, superstar. On the Packers, you say Xavier McKinney, right?
Yeah, I'll give you Xavier.
You say we had the debate with Josh Jacobs. I personally think Josh Jacobs is a tier 2 running back, but he's a star running back. You could still say he's a star, but that's about it. Like, right? Edwin Cooper is going to emerge, we think. Maybe across the offensive line, you got a couple guys, but that's really it in Green Bay. And Jordan Love's obviously the big question mark. Now you got a top end player, specifically on the defensive side of the football, where they needed someone who could take over a game. So that urgency came to fruition here. And now Green Bay, as far as talent, do you think they can match up with Philly and Detroit when we're looking at NFC contenders?
You're right that this is the sort of move you need to win a championship, I think. We'll get into this a little bit more later. But at the end of the day, you don't win Super Bowls by having a lot of surplus value and a bunch of guys on rookie deals. We've seen what that gets you. That gets you to the playoffs. But you need a closer in those playoff games, a guy who can absolutely take over. Now, Micah Parsons in Dallas, it's been up and down. In the playoffs, he has not performed what you would expect from a player of his caliber. But this is a guy who's regularly a Defensive Player of the Year guy. He's regularly making first-team All-Pros. He is a player with the talent to single-handedly take over a game. And, Jordan Love can sometimes do that. We were able to see that, for instance, against the Cowboys a couple of years ago.
Yep.
That's sort of it in terms of players who are playing the right position, who had the right talent to completely take over a game. I still think the Packers, in terms of talent, are just a little bit below Philly and Detroit, but they definitely have the players they need to get up to that level. Now, instead of needing players to step forward in order to get into the contender conversation, if those players step forward, you have a great chance of winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you made right at the end, is that now, wherever you had the Packers, right? So some people had them missing the playoffs. Some people had them as a wild card team, some threatening for the division. Whatever you had the Packers, as far as your prediction, I think you bump them up a tier, right? That's probably the right move. Like Micah's unbelievable. There's no doubt about that. But there's still a lot of work to be done. There are still questions that need to be answered. But Micah will help, obviously, for the defensive side of the football, kind of slotting everybody into a more natural role, I think. And it's going to help the secondary. It helps everyone when you add a player like Micah Parsons. But the pressure is now on Jordan Love. It really is. Like, we can let's think across the league for a second here, Ziggy. How many guys are truly under more pressure than Jordan Love to perform at a high level this season right now?
I mean,
Trevor Lawrence? I mean,
no.
It's a different kind of pressure.
No, with the Packers, the only players I think who have pressure comparable to put together a complete season, including the postseason, are Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen.
Yeah, like we're talking about winning here. This is it's a different world than the world of the guys who are hanging on to their jobs, like Trevor Lawrence, or Caleb needs to play at a high level. We're gonna need J.J. McCarthy for the Vikings. Like, it's a different world when you're talking about winning Super Bowls, and that's where Jordan Love is right now.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've talked about this. Excuses were already close to running out. I mean, you can go back and watch our video of Tom Grassi, right? Tom Grassi says we've got the offense, we've got some defensive players. You just added Matthew Golden, you added Aaron Banks on the offensive line. Now it's, hey, Jordan Love, we got you a generational pass rusher. You know, the biggest problem, I see people talking about run defense. The biggest problem for the Packers was they were not able to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So even when Jordan Love had a pretty good day, the defense might not be able to pressure the opposing quarterback, and you just give up as many points as you scored. Now they have it. Jordan Love is the single most important player on this roster, and if they don't get it done, he's going to face the brunt of the blame.
Yeah, we talked about the defense now also having, assuming Edrin Cooper takes the leap that we're expecting, you have 3 stars at each level. Well, you have a star at each level in McKinney, Cooper, and Micah Parsons.
And to be clear, this was not a bad defense last year. This is a defense
no, that's what I wanted to say.
Efficiency was very high.
That's what I wanted to say. You know, we're making it sound like adding Micah, you know, will save the defense. The defense still had solid expectations for this year and year 2 under Jeff Hafley. This is not a Cincinnati Bengals situation where Joe Burrow's scoring 1 billion points a game and the defense is allowing 30. Like, that's not what's going on here. This was a very good Packer defense that just took the jump, and that's why now we can talk about them a little more seriously as Super Bowl contenders, is because both sides of the ball are ready. There were holes on the big hole on defense was pass rusher, and that's been addressed in legitimately the best way you possibly could have imagined. The concern I'd have, if there was any part of the Packers roster right now that I still have questions about, it's the cornerbacks. Obviously, your safeties are fine with McKinney and Williams, but I just still think there's a lack of depth there between Valentine, Nixon, and Hobbs. It's a good unit, right? A solid unit, but someone is going to need to emerge from that. And if someone gets hurt, now we're talking about, you know, a shakier situation. I don't want to project out injuries or anything, but regardless of that, the defense is ready as far as making their move right now.
Well, this is why I expect better things from Micah Parsons than you saw of the Cowboys last year. Because the Cowboys defense, especially after their injuries in the secondary last year, it was really Micah Parsons versus the world out there. And one of the things that Jerry Jones talked about as well, you can have Micah Parsons out there and the defense still isn't great. That's only true if you surround him with a bunch of mediocre or bad players. Yeah. The Packers will be putting, I mean, do they have the best cornerback room in the league? No, but we saw it last year. If they're healthy, the cornerbacks are good enough. Is Rashawn Gary a generational talent? No, but he's been productive without anyone like Micah Parsons near him. The safeties have been good. Edrin Cooper should really stand out. I've already been thinking about defensive schemes that'll let you put Lucas Van Ness, Edrin Cooper, and Micah Parsons all rushing at the cornerback. Like, they could have a lot. Jeff Hafley's gonna have a lot of fun this year with all the pieces in that defense.
Oh yeah, and wasn't it so funny what Jerry Jones said at when asked about? Didn't he say, "Well, we want to stop the run"?
Yeah, right? Well, like, don't get me wrong, like, the Packers have been good against the run, but there's a reason that you moved Kenny Clark to 3 technique last year. He's gotten worse against the run, and he would have been worse this year because he's getting older. Right, the Packers, this is one of the things that makes this trade so incredible and why I think the Luka Doncic comp isn't horrible. You're swapping an older player who's coming off injury for a young prime player who's missed 4 games in his whole career.
Man, if you're a Dallas fan right now, like, you have to think that the most popular jerseys in Dallas went probably Dak, Luka, Micah, right? As far as what you're seeing around the Dallas area. And 2 of those guys are gone. Like, if you were a Cowboy fan this year, because every now and then we have fans who will DM us and say, hey, thinking about getting a jersey, including Ziggy, if anyone's up to date, who will say, hey, we're thinking about a jersey, like, what guy do you think I should get? And it's for a bunch of teams, but recently someone reached out about the Packers, and I think I told them, you know, they had a couple. I said, like, oh, I'd go Jacobs or McKinney. Like, maybe McKinney, you know, you're able to get someone who will be on the team for a while.
I would have thought Micah Parsons was the single safest jersey you could buy, except maybe CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, because he's the best player on the team. Like, it was just, if you're a Dallas fan, you need to take a sabbatical from sports maybe for a year and take a deep breath. You know, come down to Florida. It's sunny and palm trees right now. Turn off your phone. You'll figure it out. But that's brutal. All right, I want to go back to Love for 1 second here, Ziggy, because there's another thing that this move indicates to me. And we can talk about the pressure on Jordan Love all we want, but there's been a lot of people commenting throughout this offseason their doubts on Love, right? And it's warranted. The 2023 season was unbelievable, and last year, while we blamed the injuries a lot, there certainly was an element of disappointment that came with it. The wild card round is not where the Packers expected to go heading into the season. But what this move also shows is that Green Bay, like they fully believe in Jordan. You don't make a move like this. I mean, obviously you want Micah Parsons, but you don't do it like giving away 47 million. I mean, there were actual risks associated. I know we can like the deal, but paying someone 47 million, giving up 2 first-round picks, which carry a lot of value, giving up Kenny Clark, who's on the older side but still very good. Like there are risks associated with this. But the Packers believe that window, and let me know in the chat right now, do you guys think, is your expectation Super Bowl for Green Bay this year? But Green Bay making a move like this signals that they're all in on Jordan Love. And I think they're right to do it.
Yeah, well, they don't really have a choice but to be all in on Jordan Love, just given the situation the roster's in right now. Like you've handed Jordan Love the deal, right? It's sort of too late to go back on that. I'm not saying they want to, but I think they're learning from the mistakes of the Aaron Rodgers era. They did not make a move like this when they had Aaron Rodgers in the prime of his career. And there were so many times, I think, if you were a Packers fan, you could step back and say, if we just had a superstar player who could make one big play, this game would have gone differently. You know, we like to talk about heartbreaking losses for the Minnesota Vikings. The Packers have had their share of really close, heartbreaking losses in the playoffs too, right? You just need sometimes that one guy. And, you know, they drafted Devontae Adams. It's not like they gave Aaron Rodgers terrible rosters, but there were a lot of times where he said, we just need one more superstar. They're doing things differently with Jordan Love. It's a new regime, right? You've got a new GM. You've got a new CEO. I almost said owner, but of course the Packers don't have an owner, as we hear about over and over again. Like, this is it. And I don't think it's a 1-year window. I think it's a 2-year, maybe 3-year window. But you're making some commitments when you sign Parsons to this deal, right? You look at some of the wide receivers going up for an extension this year. Watson and Romeo Doubs are probably not coming back. It is unlikely you can afford them. Jaden Reed could be on the way out. What?
I love that. And the chat, I'm going to give the chat a lot of credit here. There's a very reasonable reaction to your poll and to the question I posed just now about what the expectation should be this season. It's not Super Bowl or bust. I mean, it's pretty close. You need to be competing for the NFC North. At the Packers,
you need to win multiple playoff games this year.
I don't even know if it's that. I think if they got to the divisional round and play, you're going to play probably the Eagles or the Lions there. If you have a strong performance up to the divisional round, little disappointment probably because the team is good enough to win, but I wouldn't consider that year a failure.
It also depends on how you get there, right?
No, yeah, that's
like
what I mean.
Last
it's
year
about
where,
the journey.
Yeah, you beat a lot of bad teams. You struggle against the good ones. You go in the playoffs. Maybe you do like what the Texans have done the past few years, right? You blow out a mediocre team in like the wild card round and then just get slaughtered in the divisional round.
I think it needs to be different than the Texans.
I agree. No, if it's a Texans-esque season, you're not happy.
Yeah,
but
because
if you play good football, you play good football.
No one thinks the Texans are a serious contender. You need to elevate yourself to the Buffalo Bills or the Ravens of the NFC, where you're on that tier. And right now, the Eagles, if we're making this comp, the Eagles would be in the role of Kansas City. You need to be on that tier of the teams the Eagles truly fear. And I think the teams the Eagles truly fear are the Lions. And that's probably it. I think we had an Eagles fan in the comment section. Knowing the Eagles fans, they'll probably say we fear no one. And for after this year,
you can sell me on the Commanders, the improved Commanders. I'm afraid of Jaden Daniels anytime I play him just because he's that guy.
Yeah, I guess you could talk about the Commanders. You could talk about people like the Bucks, but still, you need to separate yourself from that tier, because that's where the Packers have been. They're on the tier with the Commanders and the Bucks and the Rams. This sort of a move and the money you're paying Jordan Love, that means that you need to elevate to that group of the elite contenders. But what I was laughing about before, what you said is the window might be 2 to 3 years. I mean, this is a I totally disagree. What
Well,
is
no, I
Jordan Love?
mean, when I'm talking about the window, they might get a second window, right? But the players on that team are going to look a little bit different. It's not going to be guys like Romeo Dobbs, like Jaden Reed. I mean, you've seen this with a lot of teams, right? When you've got the quarterback, maybe you can roll a couple stars over, but a lot of those medium pieces, right? The guys that fill out your roster need to get exchanged.
Man, I think the core of this team.
They don't have the money. Right? This is the deal
No,
you're
but
making when you pay Micah Parsons this kind of money. Like Elton Jenkins is gonna have to go. You can keep Love, you can keep McKinney, you can keep Zach Tom. You can maybe keep one of your edge rushers, but a lot of pieces are gonna have to get swapped out in this roster over the next few years because you
I mean,
need guys on
Ziggy.
rookie deals.
Yeah, no, true, but and the salary cap's going to continue to move up and up and up. Like that is going to continue to happen. And what's scary for anyone who's in the NFC North or anyone in the broader NFC, the pillars of the Packers right now are all super young. Like I think this is a 5 year window of a five to I guess 7 year window with, and then that's not at this point we're not even talking a window. They're just going to be really good for a long time because if you had to pick the pillars of the Packers, you're going to say Micah. We're going to assume that Edgerrin Cooper will be one of the pillars, right? Can you put McKinney in there? Sure.
Sure. He's a first team All Pro.
Jordan Love is one of them. Zach Tom is going to be one of them. And then you're hoping, I guess, Josh Jacobs. Running backs are kind of hard to, the shelf life is just shorter. But then you're hoping Matthew Golden, right? Those 6 dudes. That's sort of what you're. And we could sub in a couple guys or add in as time goes. But like those 6 dudes right there. Who's the oldest guy of that group? Is it McKinney?
Yeah, the oldest guy in that group is 26. Josh Jacobs is 27.
Yeah. So when we're talking about 26-year-olds and the quarterback is Jordan 26 or 27?
26. And I mean, the
Jordan's
cornerbacks too, 26. Like, they're.
Yeah.
Zach Tom was one of 4. Or not, excuse me, not Zach Tom. Kenny Clark was one of 4 players on this roster who was 29 or older, and he just got traded.
Yeah, the prime of these guys, I actually think that when you're like 27, 28, you kind of hit your prime a lot of times, or that's what you see a lot of times. Maybe not for receivers, but we're going to be looking at Jordan Love entering the prime of his career when this team is poised to win. That's another reason for this, why this deal is so great, is that everybody's going to be entering the prime. I think maybe not this season, but next year and the year after are going to be the 2 best chances the Packers have had to win the Super Bowl, really since MVP Rodgers.
So since a few years ago.
Yeah, and that's I was trying to think in my mind for a second. I was like, yeah, probably since one of their 13-3 years with MVP Rodgers.
But this roster does feel a lot more balanced than those rosters. Like, you're not relying on those rosters. I mean, Aaron Rodgers could do the heroics, right? This is why he was so successful for so long. But you do not need Jordan Love to play at MVP Rodgers level for this to be a Super Bowl contending roster.
No, you don't. Yeah, but here's the thing: is when the playoffs come around, you're gonna need, like we talked about this before, right? With JJ McCarthy and the Vikings. If JJ's good, the Vikings can be a playoff team. But unless JJ McCarthy is not necessarily great, but let's just say very good, it's gonna be hard for them to go and beat some of these NFC teams. I think it applies to Jordan Love too.
Yeah, well, you always need your best players to play at a superstar level.
Yeah,
when the
yeah, you do.
comes.
No, you do. And that's what's scary about the Packers. We talked about this yesterday. Is now they have the superstars necessary, and Jordan Love can hit that superstar level, and that's where it gets really terrifying. If Jordan Love can get back to 2023 form with a couple new weapons and a little bit healthier, the Packers could be the best team in the NFC. What are the odds right now? Where have the odds shifted here? As far as the division goes,
the Packers are officially favorites at plus 170. Super Bowl odds, they're tied with the Lions. I will say this, though. I want to take it back to Micah Parsons, since he's really the reason we're running this. One persistent issue that the Cowboys had with Micah Parsons, Micah is not a big guy. He's 6'3", 245. You compare that to, say, Myles Garrett, who's 270 pounds. You compare that to TJ Watt, who's like 280. One issue Micah Parsons has had is getting worn out as the season goes on. And some of that is because the Cowboys recognized he's an incredible pass rusher. So they just put him at pass rusher 24/7 and said, you have to go against these 300-pound athletic tackles every single play. And that's very difficult. So getting the best out of Micah Parsons for the Packers is going to involve using him a little bit more creatively than Dallas did. Because otherwise you're going to run into the same issue where it's week 18, where it's the playoffs, and he just looks gassed. Now I think Jeff Hafley is the guy to do that. I'm not worried that the Packers will be able to get that done. But there is a reason why Micah Parsons has faded down the stretch basically every season he's played. That doesn't affect first-team All-Pro and Defensive Player of the Year because that's voted on at that point. But the Packers are going to have to shift organizationally from a team that's competing for the regular season. You know, we're one of the youngest teams. We're trying to prove ourselves. We're a good team. To a team that has the Super Bowl in mind, like Kansas City. They just handle the regular season differently when the Super Bowl is your one and only goal.
Well, no, and that's what this move is an indication of. It's Gutekunst, it's policy, it's everyone. It's LaFleur saying this is the time now. Like we need to take that step up. And if they don't, then there's a real problem. If the Packers look worse than they did last year, there's a real problem in Green Bay. And there are some serious questions that are going to be asked about Jordan Love, LaFleur, and the future of the organization. I don't think that's going to happen, but the schedule is certainly one. Like if you wanted to have a litmus test for the Packers of where they stand, week one's a great opportunity against the Lions. But this entire NFC North schedule with the AFC North and NFC East on the docket, like we're getting the Bengals, we're getting the Ravens, we're getting the Eagles, they get the Lions. Like it's all there. The Commanders, all these teams that we're saying the Packers need to either get above as a tier or be on that tier with them, they're going to play them. So we're going to know where they stand during the regular season. If the Packers win 13 games or something this year, they'll be the favorite going into the playoffs. But if the Packers win 9 games, then I think everybody in Green Bay is going to sit back and say, oh, like what are we missing? And then you turn your attention to Love and LaFleur.
Yeah, well, I don't want to put too much stock in the first couple of matchups. I mean, we heard Schottenheimer when Micah Parsons was on the Cowboys saying, he hasn't practiced with us, he's not in perfect shape, there's going to have to be an adjustment period. It's unfortunate the Packers have 2 of their biggest games of the season in the first 4 days.
Yeah, no, that... We talked about this yesterday. The thought of Green Bay beating Detroit to open the year and then having Washington come in and win. Like, Packers fans right now, we're over 1,000 on the stream, so we really appreciate everyone who's listening and engaging. It's fun. I want you guys to do something right now. Close your eyes and picture a win next Sunday against Detroit. Then fast forward a few days to you beating the Commanders, and you're sitting at 2-0 with wins over 2 of the top 5 teams in the NFC. Micah Parsons looks good. Jordan Love looks healthy. The only thought, I know if I were in those shoes, like I'm picturing the Vikings doing that right now, and I would just be like, that Friday after the Washington win, I'm probably walking around. I'm getting like an ice cream cone or a milkshake. I'm going to find some spot to just sit down and just pure ecstasy.
Well, so
I mean,
that's a possibility,
crazy.
But you also have to be aware of the possibility that you're facing one of the 2 best teams in the NFC in Detroit, and then you've got to face the Commanders a few days later. There's a chance you start this season 0-2, right?
Oh,
Micah
yeah.
isn't 100%. And as a Packers fan, I think there's going to be a lot of reactionary media takes if that happens, right? The Micah Parsons trade was a mistake. Jordan Love isn't ready. The Cowboys won the trade. If that's the case, you have to step back.
Yeah,
enjoy the fact that you get to play Cleveland and the Cowboys the next 2 weeks. You know Micah Parsons is going to have double-digit sacks against the Cowboys. You don't have to worry about that.
Packer-Cowboys Sunday night game, and shout out to Coach who just threw it in here, must-see TV. That is truly must-see TV. That is going to be like the Packers and I think 2 weeks after that they go to Pittsburgh for the Rodgers. Like the opening schedule for Green Bay here is just
3 weeks. They also play Cincinnati in that intermediary period.
Yeah, but back to Micah for a second. Thinking through the NFC contenders, right? Detroit and Philly, obviously the top dogs. The tackles on those teams, right? Penei Sewell. We're talking like who arguably the best in all of football. Like we're looking at a group of dudes right now. Hold on, I want to make sure. Hold on. I want to make sure if we look at the top tackles in football, top tackles by salary, NFL. Right now, you have. Wow, I actually thought that there would be higher paid. I thought the Eagles dudes were going to be higher.
No, the Eagles. I mean, they do the opposite. The Cowboys. They sign guys to smart deals early. But you've got NFC North guys up there, right? Second highest paid right tackle,
Huh.
Penei Sewell. Third highest paid left tackle, Darisaw.
I can't believe Lane Johnson's not. So anyway, you got Mailata and Lane Johnson, and then you have Sewell in there. You have Darisaw and O'Neal with us.
Maybe it's
Tunsil's
because Lane
now
Johnson's
on.
35 years old.
He's still amazing. He's still amazing. Tunsil is now within Washington. Like all these teams have elite tackles, and that's what was one of the big problems with the pass rush too for Green Bay is the teams you're going against. They're primed to be great up front. That was the calling card for Detroit, and that's why we have so many concerns right now. Is because they lost Ragnow and Zeitler. The Eagles, right? There was the huge concern when Kelsey retired. Now they were able to have the replacement. It was Jurgens, right? Cam Jurgens stepped
Yeah.
in and played well last season. But all these teams are built up front, and that. There's a reason the Vikings and the Packers were so aggressive this offseason in making those moves. There's a reason the Commanders went and got Tunsil. You need to be good up front to win in these games. That's what destroyed the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Even though it's kind of a testament to Philly because the Chiefs were up front and especially on the interior, arguably the best in the league last season. But to go and get Micah, it's a game changer, especially because the teams you're trying to beat are built to stop the pass rush. They're so strong up front. And now you have a guy who can compete on that level. And I think it's obviously a great move for Green Bay. Kenny Clark too is like well loved by that organization, that fan base. It's just like, see you, Kenny, and that's understandable when Micah Parsons comes. Oh, isn't he wearing 0? You said.
Well, we don't know exactly what number Micah Parsons is going to wear. I remember a couple years ago in Dallas, he was trying really hard to switch to 0, and he ended up not being able to get it. We'll see whether he's 11 or whatever. But, I mean, if I'm Jaden Reed, I'm asking for a generational payday. Like, hey, man, you just got paid. You're going to get paid over the next 5 seasons $210 million. How about you throw some of that my way if you want 11?
It was yeah, we'll see. I'd imagine Micah Parsons will be wearing 11, but it would match the Ziggy jersey. So that if Micah Parsons becomes a Packer and then within days of you displaying a 0 jersey takes the number 0, so there's something at higher power is working is working against us here for a second because we're gonna go for like another 10 minutes or so. Yeah, it was foreshadowing. I want to hit the Cowboys briefly, and then I want to hit these super chats because people have been really generous in and drop any questions you have as well, please. We'll try and get to a few. People are all over Jerry Jones today, and I think that's fair. I think it's totally fair. Now, Ziggy, I'm gonna let since you were really talking about this before, I'm gonna let you say why maybe we're not on Jerry in the right way.
So, I can understand why the Packers decided to trade Micah Parsons. The fact is, this roster of Micah Parsons is probably not winning a Super Bowl. The defense has needs. There's players you need to add. Paying Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons league-leading salaries, it's hard to build a team around that, and their drafting hasn't been good in the past few years. What you cannot do is make the decision that we're going to move on from Micah Parsons 1 week before the season starts. If they traded him in April before the draft, think about what they could have gotten. They could have gotten multiple first-round picks probably this year to help out the team, to build around their guys. And it's just embarrassing to have your owner come out and say this was the plan all along. You know, we always planned to trade Michael Parsons. Michael, we've moved off of him. We've gotten stronger in run defense, so we're going to be good.
Yeah, that can't. I thought I saw him do that before too.
No, he's persistently gotten the guy's name wrong. I thought originally it was just like a needling tactic. I'm not convinced he knows Micah Parsons' name. But at the end of the day,
He might just be old. Yeah, like he might just be old and just
I don't want my GM being a guy so old he can't name the single best player on my team.
Well, that's where they are. Well, yeah, what's Jerry? He's going to be 83 in October.
Yeah, like this is the thing. Moving off Micah Parsons, it's not that dissimilar from Luka. If you want to move off it in the right way, it can be defensible. But taking 2 first-round picks only and an aging Kenny Clark, that's just, I don't think that's the way to go about it. You could have gotten so much more for him, and it feels like Jerry just got fed up yesterday and decided to take the best deal that was on the table, whatever it was. Like, props to Gutekunst for just harassing that phone line, as I'm sure he was. They made sure their name was at the top of the ring. But, again, were the Cowboys winning a Super Bowl? Probably not. Do you want to make that giant commitment when you're already sort of losing on the Dak contract and potentially on the CD contract? Maybe not. But this felt like the way it happened was Jerry Jones being frustrated that he's made bad decisions. So he got tilted, threw good money after bad, and now Micah Parsons is a Green Bay Packer.
Yeah, it's the process the Cowboys have taken here, and it's them and the Bengals, right? If we're going to talk about the two teams that have really, really messed up these situations.
But at least the Bengals brought back their guy. At least they ultimately signed the guys they wanted to sign.
They did, but it's also like the price that they're getting them at. You were just talking about business, right? And like being able, like, that money matters when you're looking to, if you're a contender, which the Bengals and the Cowboys, were hoping to be one. You need that money. Like, you have an extra $10 million, $8 million or whatever that can be used to get your roster ready for a playoff run. And having Jamar Chase, go for $40 million. Like, look at what the Vikings got with the Jefferson deal. $35 million looks like a deal, like a great deal right now with what these receivers are going to be getting. I'm looking right now at the other guy, like $47 million compared to it's crazy. And if Micah had been signed a year and a half ago when he was supposed to, he would be on Dallas on a deal that everyone's looking at saying, wow, like, Micah probably should be getting paid more. Great job by the Cowboys.
They could have gotten him probably for 30 a year.
Dak's getting paid $60 million. Like, and that's what you're right. It's about the process the Cowboys have taken, and it's just, I don't know. People are really putting stock into Jerry saying he wants the Cowboys to be like a soap opera, and whether or not he values the drama and the ratings more than winning. I can't speak for Jerry Jones. I'd be surprised if that was truly the case. I think Jerry Jones wants to win. You hear him talk about, remember he said, like, I said to God after our third Super Bowl, I'll never ask for another one if we win this. And he's like, I kind of regret that deal now. I think that Jerry Jones wants to win still. It's just the process that they've taken has been horrible. And given the situation that they were in, making the trade that they did was fine. Right? The trade they made was okay. I don't think they got swindled. I think they could have gotten more.
But we talked about, if you're a Packers player, you're so amped up, you're starting to believe, like, this can be us winning the Super Bowl this year. If you're a Cowboys player, you're so demoralized. Probably the best player in the building just got shipped off to the rival that's whooped your ass in the playoffs the past couple of years.
Well, and if you're a Cowboy fan, that's the other thing. And this is where it feels sweet if you're a Packer fan too, because you have just been kicking their ass for a long time now. And now you get to look at any Cowboy fan, and you're like, hey, we got your guy too. It is just a nightmare situation for Cowboys fans in so many ways. Like, you lose your best player, you lose him to a team that owns you. You're not sure if you're going to be competitive for the near future or the long-term future. And Green Bay is the exact opposite for everything. They're ready to go now. One of the best players in football, and you stole him from a massive rival. So,
on that note, probably time to get some of these super chats.
Yeah, let's get to a couple of these questions. You want to run through them?
Yeah, we'll run through them. We've got one from Izzy Roberts, subbed via Grossi Posse raid last season. Shout out Tom Grossi, friend of the program. So excited to see Micah Parsons twice a year against two of the better teams in the NFC, Bears excluded. We've got Brian Gutekunst coming in here, $5. I had some spare change left over from the Parsons deal. Thank you, Brian. We really appreciate it. Glad to know you're watching this.
Glad to see the Packers have more money still to spend.
Butt Pounder 420. I got married and the Packers got Parsons all in the same month. What a beautiful month to not be a Vikings fan.
Oh, congratulations, Butt Pounder. Very happy
I'm not
for
sure
you.
I believe that. Butt Pounder 420.
We'll say. I will say it's okay. It's okay. Look, if JJ McCarthy's good, I'll be happy. Like, that's all I'm asking for, right?
Contra Poston, Sonic and Knuckles are about to be eating good. Made themselves worse against the run. Jameer Gibbs is going to feast no matter how good your defensive line is.
That's what we need to start making jokes about, is that the Packers' run defense is just going to be horrible. They'll be fine. No, they'll be fine. But I will say, I do want to say one more time, I still think the Lions are the better team. And if you look on sports books, we just said a second ago, like, the Packers are favored. It's plus 165 for Green Bay, plus 190 for Detroit. plus 350 for the Vikings and plus 600 for the Bears. I don't hate that Lions plus 190 right there. I think the Lions are the better team. The schedule in Detroit is tougher. Like my guess is that this comes down to one game between Green Bay and Detroit. Unless if Chicago or Minnesota takes a huge leap. I think it's going to be decided by one game. And that's where week one, like I'm really circling that. That game might ultimately, you don't want to put too much stock into it, but I am circling that. And just one more thing on Super Bowls. So your top 10 for the Super Bowl. Buffalo and Baltimore tied at 1. That's crazy to me. Let me just say for a second, having anyone in the AFC favored above the Chiefs, it cannot be the case. It just cannot. No, Ziggy's giving me like that. He wants to get. You can't put Baltimore or Buffalo ahead of the Chiefs until they actually do it. I'll finish this quickly. Buffalo, Baltimore 1. 3, you have the Eagles. 4, the Chiefs. 5 now the Packers. So they're number 2 in the entire NFC. 6, Detroit. Washington 7. San Francisco 8. LA, the Rams 9, and the Broncos.
Well, okay, let's not do this.
The Broncos are 10.
Go and watch our AFC preview if you want to see
the
what
Broncos are
the
10.
Broncos.
Are you like that?
We've got a super. I mean, once you're getting to that point, it's teams no one thinks has any chance of winning.
The Bengals have a better chance than the Broncos.
This is one from Alexander Newell. This is the most excited I've been about a Packers defense been watching since 2003. Fair enough. This is the most scared I've been about a Packers defense probably since 2003. V-Man's coming in. I truly knew something was coming when Gutekunst said they needed to ramp up their urgency. Would you put the Packers in the top 3 in the NFC after this mega trade? Top 3, sure.
It's... Yeah.
The question is whether they're like up there in number 3 or they're the start of the second tier. That's really the question.
I think it goes Lions, Eagles, Packers. But we're going to need... beating Detroit week 1 puts you on that tier and changes the perception.
Vagabond players are important, but coaching also needs to be a pillar. That's true. I think this is an advantage Green Bay has over the Cowboys. I actually believe in their coaches. M2.
Yeah, you need the coaching. The coaching has to be there. And the NFC North is chock full of great coaches. And if Ben Johnson gets the Bears, if Ben Johnson can get the Bears to a 10-win season from the Bears, and you're going like, all right, like this dude can really do something here.
All right, a couple more of these, and then we're gonna have to call it. M2 says if the compensatory pick system didn't exist, it'd be Super Bowl or bust. But players can walk next offseason, go get their money. The Packers will thrive. That is true. That if you have a lot of free agents leave, you can get some picks back way in the future. But the Packers need their players now, so I'm not paying a ton of attention to the compensatory picks there. Bill Lamoureux, don't know not to have Ziggy wear the Packers jersey, but to play some beautiful outro music on the guitar. Unfortunately, that does not come through very well on the microphone, but I appreciate the thought.
We could try and get a setup for Ziggy to play a little music. He can play.
I've got some mournful songs queued up. I was crying myself to sleep with the guitar
my
last
old
night.
friend.
Oh, sadder than that. Finally, we've got this from, I believe this just says I. You two are a joy. I was 17 when we got Reggie White. That's the last time I felt so good for a Packers acquisition. The only thing that can match it is getting Ziggy to flip to the Packers fandom. But don't feel bad. The Bears still suck.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of ourselves as Vikings fans. Like I like to consider ourselves.
You like to think of yourself as a Vikings fan?
No, it's a continuation of the sentence, Ziggy. Relax. I like to think of ourselves as Vikings fans as an organization that we are not looped in with the Bears, because I know you have a Super Bowl, and that is ultimately the differentiator why the Bears can have that place above us in the all-time rankings. But the Vikings are consistently competing. Like, we're always there. That's why we talk with Grossi. That's why he hates the Vikings the most out of any team, is because the Vikings have these great seasons, like seriously all-time teams, and it just ends in pure misery. I don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm just trying to say, like, this is not a the Bears Vikings pure misery against the Packers. Like that's what this is. I know that we're a Viking show with a large Packer audience, but the unification is not us with the Packers. It's us with the other teams again. Like you guys are the big bad in this world. You know it too, and that's why it's so frustrating seeing you go out and get Micah. But all right, we'll wrap it up there. Ziggy, great job running through the questions. Appreciate you hopping on. We'll be back next week, probably on Wednesday. Will be the first time you'll see us. We're gonna start up that Andy Herman weekly show. I'm sure Andy will be in a good mood.
I love Andy Herman. I love doing shows with him. I'm really not looking forward to that one. Because, Andy's going to come with the receipts about just how good Micah Parsons
No.
But
The difference is Andy will also be reasonable. He has very solid takes. He's
but
not.
That's what's so unfortunate is it's not just going to be, yeah, whatever, man. You're saying that just to say it. He's going to give you every empirical reason to believe that Micah Parsons is that guy.
No. So yeah. So it might be you might see the life in our eyes just kind of drain through that recording, but that's better, and I'll take that over the incessant like Super Bowl baby, which is what I would be doing if I were a Packers fan. So, all right, we appreciate everyone in the chat again. This has been awesome. We had almost 1,000 people throughout this entirety. Football's here, guys. We got 1 week to go, and it's going to be fun. Sorry to Cowboys fans. Sorry about Luka. Sorry about Micah. Sorry to Packers fans. Yet again, glad you guys are having. I'm sure it was sunny in Green Bay again today. It was beautiful.
It's supposed to be sunny all weekend.
So yeah, sunny getting up to 60. Yeah, look at this, sunny and 75 most of the week in Green Bay. It's just it always is. And you know what? Take it. I'm not gonna be out here wishing on negativity. So I'll enjoy when they lose, but I'm whatever. Let's just end this. All right, appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week.